everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 142. Today I'm going to talk about The Cave. This is a game from Rebel, and it plays 2 to 5 players in about 60 minutes. I think that's definitely accurate. The idea is that each player is going to explore a ever-growing and ever-changing cave, so it's a tile placement game, unlike Carcassonne. And then each player sort of has a team or one spelunker, if you will, and they're going to go down and sort of discover unique caverns and cool looking caverns and sort of do a lot of exploration and basically gather tokens for their efforts. And you've got a certain number of action points that you have to use on your turn, and you've got to also manage the amount of food you have and different sort of things like that. So everybody's got a backpack of goods that they can put in there, and you can sort of make that out however you want. You can put a lot of food in there, you can put lots of rope in there, because there'll be some caves that will drop in depth, which is one of the really cool parts of the game. So you need rope to get up and down those caverns. But if you run out of food and you can't make it back to the center base where you come in the cave in your 5 action points, because he's trying to get 5, then you basically are going to be losing turns and sort of slowly crawling and trying to get back to the cave. So you've got to be real kind of good resource / time management about how far you explore, and certain types of the different tiles and the different caverns that you're going to interact with are going to cost you more action points. If it's a tight squeeze, or there's water, or like I said, there's a long drop in a cavern, it's going to cost you a little bit of extra action points. So everybody's going to go around and then try to gather up different tokens. You get some bonus points at the end. But let me show you how it works, and I'll come back and say what I think. Okay, let me just give you a quick overview of all the components. First thing you're going to do is figure out how many players are playing. So you can see I've got 4 players here, and there's going to be a different starting tile based on the number of players. So you go ahead and set that somewhere in the middle of the table. And each player is going to choose a color, and they're going to get this little sort of backpack and inventory system. You can see here is a backpack here, and then also a little bit of additional storage for a tent. So players will each have a little pawn that they'll put in the center here, and then also a tent that they'll put in the center. And you're going to load up this backpack here with a variety of different tokens to help you on your exploration. But it's also possible to load some stuff into this tent and then put this in the bottom section of your backpack. You can see there's a little tent icon there. So it kind of gives you a little bump in storage. As well as when you go and travel out here and you explore and get a lot of tiles laid out, it sort of gives you sort of a temporary base camp. Because remember, as I said at the beginning, you're going to have food that you're going to use, and you're going to use it up every turn, and then you need to get back here to sort of restock. Well, you can throw in a couple extra things in this tent and sort of put it out, maybe somewhere along the path, kind of leave from your tent, and then get back to your tent, and then get back to the center base camp. And if we look over here, you can see there's all kinds of tokens. I got some other player pieces, some rope, some food, some water tokens, some other stuff here, some rope tokens, some camera stuff, all kinds of stuff. There's a ton of tokens in this game. And then you've also got your tiles here. So you can see you got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take out a certain number of tiles based on the number of players, and then when you start exploring, you're going to draw from the 1 tiles first, and then go down to the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s. And then once you run out of the 4s, you're going to finish the round, so everybody gets equal number of turns, and then you're going to take 3 more rounds. And if you are not back here in the center by the end of that 3rd round, then you basically lose. You get 0 points, you're lost in the cave, you didn't get back in time for them to lift you out, so to speak. But if you do make it back here, then you're going to total up all the points from all the tiles, all the tokens, and there are some bonus tokens for whoever got the most water tokens, for example. You get the most of these, then you're going to get some extra bonus points, and then you're going to get some extra bonus points for the amount of depth that you explored in the game. Okay, before I start talking about how the flow of a turn will work, let's take a quick look at the player board here. Now you can see I've got a sort of a default loadout. This is sort of the recommended loadout to start the game if you've never played before. So you've got basically 4 food icons, or they call them consumables here, 1 rope, a camera, and then a little raft here, and then an oxygen tank. You can see this is full. Once you use it once, it'll deplete 1 tank, and then if you use it again, you just discard it back into the supply there. And then you don't have the the tent to start with. And it's also got a nice sort of breakdown of all the possible actions you can do and how many actions each of these is going to take. Because remember, you have 5 action points on your turn, And then you can see like this one, to explore a new tile, cost 1. And it's pretty straightforward. This is just a nice reminder of basically how many action points some of the different things will cost you depending on the type of tile you're exploring. Okay, so very simply, the first action you can do is to move, and that's what you'll have to do to start the game because you're not adjacent to sort of any empty edges here in the middle. So I can move, that'll cost me an action point. And then I can explore. So I can explore, I can take one of these tiles here off the level 1 stack, and then I'm going to put it somewhere here. Now you can orient it how you want. You don't ever have to say which side you're exploring. So if I put this here, that would be one other action point. I've got 3 left. Another one to move in there. I've got 2 left. And then if I wanted to explore again, I can explore. I don't have to choose which exit I'm exploring here. Now, when you explore, you have to have a legal placement for every edge of the tile. So this one here, I could put this here like so. But if for some reason there was another tile here, let's say somebody had come around this side, and I could not put this here because it's not legal on all the ends. It doesn't matter that if it's only legal from the side you're coming out of. It has to be completely contiguous and legal everywhere. And if you can't for some reason, and it's going to happen a couple of times in the game, especially as you get more tiles out here, you have to grab one of these sort of dead end tiles like so. So if I had to put this here, let's say for argument's sake, I would put that there. And now you cannot explore from here. You can move into these. It costs you 2 movement points or 2 action points to move into a dead end, but you can never explore out of it. You can move out of it if for some reason somebody had come along this side, let's say, and they had a tile like so, and they come in here. Then you can move out of it, but it's going to cost you 2 action points. But you can never explore, you can never discover a new tile from a dead end. Now most of the time it's going to cost you 1 action point to move into a tile, but there are certain tiles with these little icons on them. There are a variety of icons, a variety of tiles. Let me just kind of quickly go through them. You can see here I've got sort of a tight squeeze. You can see there's a real tight sort of narrow passageway. Now there's 3 levels of these. You've got 1, 2, and 3, and they're each going to cost you an additional action point. So to move into here, it's going to cost you 2 action points. But when this comes out, you're going to take one of these little tight squeeze tokens here. And so that was a level 1, so I would take and put that on there. So you've got level 2 and 3 there. And I'll put that on there. So the first person that goes in there with a move is going to go in there and they're going to take this. And this is going to give them some points at the end of the game. Now the other tile that I pulled up here is this little camera icon. So this is sort of a wondrous sort of cavern here. Each of them has some cool little different art on there. You go ahead and put a little camera token on there, and then it's still 1 point to move in here, and then it's another action point to actually take the picture. Now obviously you need the camera in your backpack, and when you take the picture, you take and you collect that and you put that off to the side. You just put all the tokens that you collect during the game off to the side. You don't put them in your inventory or anything like that. Next we have these tiles here with a water icon on there, and you'll take and put a little water icon on there like so. Now these are a little bit different in that if you move through these, if you have a raft, you can use the raft here for 1 action point and just move right through it. However, you're not going to get the water token for that. Now if you have the little water tank here like so, you can move through there, and you can spend one of your canisters of oxygen to basically sort of dive into this tile, and then you get this token. However, that's going to cost you 2 action points. And again, once you use the second time, you're going to discard that, so you're not going to have it anymore. Now the last type of tile are going to be these tiles here with these little rope icons on them. And these are basically going to be a descent deeper into the cavern. So when you get one of these, you go ahead and you apply it however you see fit, and it's legal. And then you're not actually going to put a token on there like so. However, you're going to need one of these little ropes from your inventory. And so it's a good idea, again, to have rope in there because you won't be able to descend into this cavern. Now the game comes with a mess of these sort of altitude or depth icons. And basically each rope that you discover as you're going down is going to be 25 feet in depth. So we'll go ahead and put a 25 footer on here. So basically you start at 0, so to speak, and then you go down 25 feet. So for every 25 feet I descend, I need to use a rope. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the rope here. And that's going to cost me 1 action point. And then I can now move into here for another action point. So that was 2 action points. And then when I get in here, the first time that I get this depth, I'm going to grab a token that shows how far I've gotten down. So you can see here I've got a 25 foot depth one here. I'm going to flip that over and I get 3 points there. So each level you go down, you'll grab a token from the supply, and you want to get further and further deeper so you get more and more points that way. But later on, to come back here, it's just going to cost 1 movement point because the rope has already been laid. Now, it is possible to have to go down more than 1 step in depth at a time. So if I had a configuration sort of like this, somebody had come down this way, they had explored one descending tile, and they went to 25 feet, and then they had another one that would go to 50 feet. Well, what happens when I come through this way? So let's say I was coming back through, or somebody else had already been through here, and I come back this way like so. So now I've moved into here, but to get from here to here, I'm going to have to go down twice. And so what I'm going to need in this case is actually 2 of these rope tiles. And that's going to be 1 action point per rope to move down into here. So I can go directly all the way down a long descent into the 50 like so. Again, that's 2 action points and then an action point to move in. So as people are sort of exploring these caverns and they're kind of coming together sort of jointly, you may get a situation like this. And it can get, not very confusing really, but it can get slightly confusing if you're looking at the board, like what depth should everything be. They do give you some extra tokens here, so you can sort of like, line out, the different depths. And so just remind yourself how deep each tile actually is. Unlike the other tiles that get a little token put directly on them, these rope tiles or these descent tiles don't get a token put on them. But when you lay rope, when you actually physically lay rope, you get one of these tokens out of the general supply. So it's sort of like kind of being helpful for the rest of the players, and you get a little bit of a reward, and these will give you some points at the end of the game for helping the travel and expediting the travel a little bit. So remember now, you get 5 action points on your turn, and before the start of each of your turns, unless you are here back in the middle at the home base there, you're going to have to consume a food. If you can't consume a food, then you're going to waste all your action points, and you have to move closer to the home base by 1 step. It doesn't matter what the terrain is. So if I'd run out of food here starting up, I didn't have any food to spend, I couldn't explore further, I'd have to spend basically 1 action point, or 1 whole turn I should say, and move 1 step closer, and then again, and then again. So I would have wasted basically 3 turns because I didn't manage my food properly. Now, when you get back to the home base there, you can see it costs you some action points to load out your backpack. So it'll cost you 2 action points to basically load out whatever you want. You can put whatever you want in there from the supply, food, rafts, more oxygen, etc. It's going to cost you 1 point to fill in your tent into your backpack like so. And then when you're traveling further out, so you may take your tent with you, you may be moving along here, you have your tent in your backpack. To plop the tent down somewhere on the board, it's going to cost you 2 action points. Once it's out there, it doesn't cost you any action points to exchange anything in or out of your tent. But you won't really be too worried about this at the beginning, because you basically go a little bit and then come back, and everybody can kind of play as tight or as loose as they want, explore as far out as they want. But then definitely in the middle to later part of the game, you're going to want to bring the tent with you to get to some of those lower depths and get to some of those tiles that maybe others have revealed, but they didn't have enough action points to get into. So you better prepare that way. That's pretty much the game. You're just going to explore. You're going to go through all the stacks of the tiles here. Once you go all the way through, the level 4 stack, everybody finishes out the round. Then you get 3 more extra turns if you're not back in the middle. Then you lose the game with 0 points. If you do get back to the middle, you're going to count up all the points based on this little chart here. So let me show you this. So basically all of the camera and the level 1 squeeze and the ropes are 2 points all the way down here. So you can see 75 foot and lower depths are worth 5 points each. So you get a lot of points there. And then there are some bonus tiles here. Whoever has the most of certain types of tiles will get 8 points, and whoever is second will get 4. Just a couple examples, like whoever has the most water or second most water, the most squeezes, and the most cameras, the most rope, those kinds of things. And so that's all public information. You can kind of see what others are doing and try to make your decisions based on that. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. This is a pretty straightforward, probably family level game. I really like it. The theme of it really comes across with the whole exploration, the different types of tiles and things. The game is going to start off somewhat similar every time, but based on what the players do and sort of how, I guess risky they are, the map's going to sort of take a different shape every time. So one thing that you can kind of do, especially after you've played it once and you can get a feel for how many action points are ideal and what kind of loadout to use on your backpack, is you can kind of play it where you're sort of cherry picking each other, and maybe instead of growing out directly in a straight line, you can play with sort of growing around and sort of spiraling out from the base. It's pretty cool. Like, you can play a little bit with the inventory a little bit later on in the game. I would say keep with the starting loadout the first time, no matter what. I mean, every time. But to start the game, I would start with that because you never really know what you're going to run into. You want to have your camera handy in case the camera tiles show up. You can collect those for points. You want to have the raft handy, and you want to have the water tank. Now, that's one thing you could probably play a little bit with, is get rid of the water tank. Maybe add an extra food or something, or an extra piece of rope, because you can still get through the water with the raft. You just won't be able to collect those. But maybe you forsake those and let somebody else kind of go after those, and then you sort of build up your depth and your camera tokens to get more points that way. So you can play a little bit, tinker a little bit with that. But then as the game evolves, you can kind of see how it's come out and what tokens are kind of left up for grabs, and sort of gear yourself up, for that, and then shoot down there, throw down your tent, grab up all the depth tiles or the camera tiles or something like that. So you can really kind of play off each other, and there's some real sort of, I don't know what the right word is, some gamesmanship, I guess, with how the tiles come out. But I really like the depth thing. It's just cool to really see the board expand. It's got that same kind of idea with any tile game. It's just cool to see at the end of the game what you've explored. And just add some nice little elements on top of your traditional thing with the management of the backpack and everything. And when do I load my tent up, and then load it with extra stuff, and then to give myself that couple extra turns, to get to some of those harder to reach places. So yeah, it's just super cool with the theme and all the different elements just smashed together. It's just very enjoyable. Not hyper strategic. So if you're really looking for some kind of vast strategy here, there's not going to be there, but there are elements to it, and it does give you room to sort of play around a little bit with how you explore, kind of how you react to other players, what they discover. Again, how you load your backpack out, like what are you equipped to do? Are you more of a water diver guy? Are you more of a spelunker, guy that likes to go down the caverns, that kind of thing? Are you a photographer? So yeah, it's got some interesting elements there, and I definitely would recommend it, especially for a family environment. I think people will have a lot of fun with this. Okay, thanks.